recording of lovely little Francesca from yesterday's newborn one-to-one training session, and I'm just going to talk and walk you through how I would edit this session in Lightroom. So I've already made my selection, so I started off with 93 images, and then I made my selection. I went through all of the images, and the ones I liked I clicked on this little circle here, and then they were copied over into the quick collections folder. So now I'm going to start to develop, and here we have our first image. So the first thing that I'm going to do is increase the exposure to 35, and then I'm going to drop those highlights down to about there, and then I'm going to bring the blacks down just a little bit to increase the blacks by that much, and then the clarity, if it's 2.8 and above, and you can see your settings here, your camera settings here, then the clarity will be -20. If I shot at 1.8 or 2.2, then the clarity would be -10 because the image is soft already. Right, so clarity's down, and then I'm just going to bring up the vibrance by a little bit. Oops, about there. Okay. Then I am going to come down to darks, and I am going to lighten the image, reduce the darks by that much, and then I'm going to come down, and this is where the majority of the changes are made, especially with this baby, because the baby is slightly jaundiced and obviously it's got magenta fingers, but I've created a brush that's in another tutorial. Yeah, so you can find that one, so you know how to create a preset brush in Lightroom. So I'll do that separately. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the reds, which I always do with newborns, and I'm going to increase the hue up to +30. And then I'm going to increase the saturation to about the same, about there. And then the luminance, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we'll see if this works here. So I'm just going to increase to about 18 or 19. So the next one will be the orange, and I am going to take it down by a touch, just to -4, which will bring it into the reds. As you can see, it's the yellows and greens here down to orange and red. So I'm trying to move it away from the oranges into the nice reds, and then I am going to reduce the saturation because it is very orange, down to about there. And finally I'm going to do the yellows, so I'm going to drop the hue down again, taking it away from the yellows, removing the jaundice look, and I'm just going to take that down to about there. Okay, so that really is all that I need to do on that. Literally that's everything. So now I'm going to go into my preset brush, which I saved earlier. So I'm going to click on here and select the brush tool, and then I'm going to locate my magenta fingers. Going to zoom in, and I'm just going to paint this over baby's fingers. Okay, I'll zoom out, and that's fine. So I'm just going to click done, and now I'm just going to increase the highlights here. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Go into the brush tool, and then I've saved one as face highlights. Add a new mask. Right, okay. So now I should be able to do it. I needed, because the magenta fingers was mask 1, so I needed to create a new mask for the highlights. So now I'm just going to go over baby's face. That's it. Okay, so now I'll click done. And that is all I would do in Lightroom for this image. So once that's done, then you can sync all of the settings. You can't sync the brush. I need to hand edit those on each picture, but all of the other settings can be synced together. So I'm going to select all of these images here and sync. Just make sure masking is off and spot removal, crop, all of that is off, and then I'm going to synchronize. And then I'll just go back in and, oops, where's that gone? All right, and just check these images, make sure I'm happy with them. So I'm just going to increase the brightness here. And because this was shot at 1.8, the image will be warmer. So now I'm just going to bring the temperature down just a little bit for this one. Okay, and the same for this, just a little bit. And okay, maybe just bring that down a touch. Right, on to the next one. Next one. I'm just gonna go through all of these now. Just increase the exposure on that one, then bring the highlights down. Increase the exposure and bring the highlights down. Okay, so once we've done all that, then we can use our magic brush and do all of the magenta fingers. Brush tool, magenta fingers. If you make a mistake, as you can see I've done one here, just click on the erase and then just go back over those areas to remove them. Okay, so now I just click on the next image. Oh, sorry, click done, and then go on to the next one. That one's already selected, so okay. Right, so those fingers are still a little bit pink. So I'm just going to go back in to here and, oh, okay, right. Right, done. And zoom in, same thing. I'm just using my square bracket key to increase and decrease the size of the brush. It's almost thick. Sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, done. Right, so we've done those ones, now we're going to move on to this one. So just increase the exposure a bit. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try syncing and see how that works. So I'm going to take one that is roughly about the same size. I'm going to go with this one and this one and then sync. And then just going to increase here. So I can sync these two. Wonderful. And then onto these ones. Reduce those highlights down. Reduce the shadows. Perhaps reduce the contrast on these ones. Okay. Clarity. -20. And okay, so I'm going to sync again, sorry. Sync. Alright. And now just make a few changes. So bring those highlights down, bring the exposure up. Alright, that's fine. Okay, then sync them again. Just going to make it a tiny bit cooler. That's fine, that one. And I'll try syncing this one too, although I have to see how this one goes. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that exposure down, bring the darks down. Then I'm going to go down and just reduce those, I think it's the oranges again. So let's try to bring the oranges down. Yep. And with the light colours, I click on this, enable profile correction, and that removes the vignette and corrects any distortion. I like the effect of the vignette and that curve distortion with the dark ones, but not with the light ones. Alright, And then one final thing that I do with light ones is remove any blue. So we can see there's quite a lot of blue there, so I just remove all of that, and then same with the cyans or the aqua. And right, so I'm happy with that. Then I'm just going to sync all of those. So these ones were a bit brighter, so just going to bring the exposure down to about there. And now sync these ones. Okay. So with this one, there's a bit more red, so I am going to click on this and try to move the slider over there. And oranges, no. Maybe just take the saturation down on the oranges. Okay, we'll resync those two. Right, so now I'm going to go back and finish off doing the hands. Alright, so it's brush, preset, brush, it's already selected. Oh, remove the overlay, I don't need to see that, zoom in. Nope. Let's try again. Magenta fingers, come on now. Alright, there we go. And then I'm just going to erase. I just went over the face just a little bit here. And here. Alright. Okay, so that's done. Next one. Zoom out and take a look. Maybe just bring the exposure down and touch on that one. Right, next one. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning again. Oh. And I'm going to use my face highlights brush, which I've done there already. So I'm going to go on to the next one. Create a new mask brush. Then it is face highlights. And just go over the whole face. So you can see the before and after, fingers and the face. Right, done. Move on to the next one. So I've done all of that, and now I am just going to just take another little look and do some cropping. Just going to see if the healing brush can remove this. So on this one I'm just going to take down the yellows just a little bit more, so just going to bring the hue down. About there. Now I'm going to do some transforming, and I'm going to use the guided tool to straighten this bed. And then click done. Let's bring it down just a little bit. Try and use the healing tool here. Sometimes it just doesn't work. We'll try here. No. Okay, make sure baby's central. Oh, sorry, excuse me. pushing the wrong button. So I'll use the guided for this. And then click done. Almost finished. I love this one. I have to wait for it to catch up. Right, this one and this one. Done. And then I'm just going to crop it down here. I have to decide. I know. Yes, I'm just going to do this. Right there and there. It's a clever tool, this. Right, done. And then drop it down like this. Okay, so that's all of them done. And now I'm just going to click on this library and I'm going to export them out into a folder on my Mac. So I'm going to select them all and then export. Choose the folder. So I'm going to create a folder. And the baby's name was Francesca. Turn 6 days. Oh, and like this. Create. Then a subfolder called best. Create. Then choose. And the file naming is exactly how I want it to be, just keeping it exactly the way it was, just adding a little underscore there. And then scroll down. This quality needs to be 100%, and I export out of 14 inches being the longest edge at 300 resolution, and I don't do any sharpening. So I'm just going to export those out, and then I'll do another screen recording for Photoshop.